When ONEUP components came out with the new dropper post, one of the standout features was being able to shorten the travel on it to get it to fit better. Now, this was a feature that I was always curious to see if I could get it to work on a different dropper post, one that wasn't made by ONEUP components. And actually, it is possible. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. Hey everyone, my name is Joseph, and today I'm going to show you how I was able to take a dropper post that wasn't made by ONEUP components, but still be able to shorten the travel on it anyways. The reason why you would want to shorten the travel on a dropper post is to essentially get the perfect riding position so that way you can climb efficiently, but be able to drop that seat as low as possible when you're actually going down the mountain. Now the way ONEUP components does this is they have a plastic shim that you can trim to size and put inside the dropper post. This prevents the saddle from coming up past a certain point, which means that you can have the actual dropper post down in the seat tube as far as possible while still having the saddle come up to the perfect spot every time. Now, ever since I saw this functionality, I was curious to see if I could get it to work in other dropper posts, not just ones that were made by ONEUP components. Unfortunately, that little plastic shim that you use to do that is sold out basically everywhere, and I've never been able to get my hands on it. Until recently. I was actually out shopping and picking up a dropper post lever to do a comparison video across multiple levers, so keep an eye out for that video in the future. But this ONEUP components lever kit actually came with that shim inside of it. So with that shim in hand, I was able to finally test it out on my dropper post and found that it did in fact fit. Now this is the P&W Components Bachelor, but I'm curious to see if other dropper posts would actually be compatible with this shim, if you can get a hold of it, or maybe make your own. Now before I show you how I was able to get it to fit, let me make a quick disclaimer. Taking apart a dropper post is extremely dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. There's a lot of high pressures or very strong springs inside these dropper posts, and you can seriously injure yourself if something goes wrong. So please, if you're going to try this, make sure you have a friend that can help you walk through this, preferably someone who might be a bike mechanic full-time and really understands the internals of the dropper posts. Otherwise, I'd ask that you not try this until you can figure out a safe way to do it. With that out of the way, let me show you how I actually got the shim installed.
So if you've actually watched the P&W Components install of the shim, this is going to look very similar. And it really is. You unscrew the top cap and then raise the dropper post up a little bit to get that white bushing up and out of the dropper post. Once everything's clear, you can fidget around there and try to find 3 little slots that this shim fits into. Now on P&W Components, they call these slots the spin stop technology. There's 3 little brass tabs that are on the main stanchion of the dropper post, and this keeps it from moving side to side. Apparently, ONEUP Components has exactly the same dimensions, so that insert just fits in perfectly. Now, once you have the insert in, we can put everything back together and just cycle the dropper post a few times to make sure we've actually taken off 50 millimeters of travel. We haven't trimmed the shim down, we just want to make sure that it's working. And in fact, we've taken off about 50 millimeters of travel. So let's go ahead and pull it out and do some quick measurements and figure out exactly how much we want to take off. Now here I'm taking a few measurements of some of the parts. This white bushing here is 18 millimeters tall, and I'm measuring the channel that it goes into using the plastic shim as kind of a ruler. Now let me kind of show you what I'm doing here and the logic behind it. I wish I could create a cool animation to show you guys, but unfortunately I suck at that, so I've just made a quick illustration to get the point across. So we have a cross section of the dropper post here on the left side, and then a top-down view on the right. So this bushing here that goes around the actual stanchion of the dropper post measures 18 millimeters tall. Now the channel it goes down into is actually 21 to maybe 22 millimeters deep. That means that when this bushing is down inside the dropper post, there's about a 3 to 4 millimeter gap. Now why that's important is because when you put in that shim, if you cut it too short, on the top view here we can see these 3 channels, and that's the 3 channels for the spin stop technology brass tabs to slide up and down. So when they come up, they may actually push up and out that plastic shim if it's cut too short. This is because P&W never anticipated a shim being put inside of their dropper post. Now, I was curious to see if maybe you could take a zip tie and use that as a little bit of a shim if all you needed to take off was a couple millimeters. So I measured this zip tie, cut it to size, and then stuffed it down into that little channel. But unfortunately, the bushing didn't really sit flush, and when I tightened everything down, there was a lot of binding and friction caused by that zip tie. So quite honestly, it's just not worth the hassle. I would just honestly overshoot the amount of travel you need, so take off that 5 or 6 millimeters, and then just move the dropper post up a couple extra millimeters to get the saddle height exactly where you need it. I actually did need to legitimately take some travel off of this dropper post because this 150 was just a little bit too tall for me on the Chromag. So I settled on taking 10 millimeters of travel off and trimmed it accordingly.
All right. No turning back now.
I'll be completely honest, it was a little bit of a pain getting this down into the channels lined up perfectly. It took a couple attempts and some zip ties to prod it down in there, but once I finally got it down in and pushed the bushing in place, there was a great sense of satisfaction that I got this to work after waiting so many months to get my hands on this one little part.
All right, and there you go. That is how I adjusted the travel on my dropper post. But before you go, because I know you're about ready to close this window, I want to give you some parting thoughts. I think that this should be a standard function on all dropper posts, a feature that you don't have to do special weird things to get. It's so frustrating to have a dropper post that fits perfectly, and then you buy a new bike that has a seat tube that's that much taller, and suddenly you have to buy a whole new dropper post. Yeah, you can sell it, but then you have to go through the whole hassle. It'd just be great to install a simple plastic part like I did here and get it to fit perfectly. As far as compatibility, I can tell you that the Fox Transfer, it definitely won't work with. I looked at the schematics online. That's not gonna be good for anyone to shove some plastic in there. I would like to see Fox or maybe a third-party company perhaps come up with a kit that you can install yourself, or much like you would adjust the travel on your front fork, you get a new air spring, you drop it off at your local bike shop, they take 5 or 10 millimeters off that dropper post, now it fits more properly. As far as dropper posts that this shim will work in, I think that some of the race face dropper posts it'll work in, maybe some of the other P&W component droppers it might work. And by the way, this video was not sponsored or influenced by P&W components. This was literally the only dropper I had at my disposal. So let me know what you think about this video. Leave some comments below. Let me know if your dropper post is compatible with this shim. I'd be really interested to maybe compile a list and make a follow-up video. If you found the video helpful, give it a like and share it with some friends. But until next time, get out there and find your next adventure. Have a good one.